Okay, good evening, everyone. If you please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is Tuesday, August 9, 2022. The time being 6:45 p.m. The Greensburg City Council is called to order. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that's available on the table in the back of the room. Before we do roll call, I'm going to ask to amend the agenda. We had an oversight, but Jenny Fowler with the Small Business Development is here to give her kind of annual update about what's been happening. Right, Jenny? That's right. Good. We're glad to have you. And so we'll put her right at the top of new business. And then the other change to the agenda would be on the resolution under Bryan Robbins. We need to change St. Mary's Church to Heritage Hill tax abatement.
Make a motion to amend the agenda in that order.
Second.
Motion's been made by Jamie, second by Kevin. All those in favor of the change, signify by saying aye. Those opposed. Okay. Now, Amy, please call the roll.
Yes. Jamie Kane.
Here.
Kevin Fleetwood.
Here.
Ken Sweller.
Here.
Vieta McKenzie. Here. Darrell Foley.
You should have all received a copy of the minutes of July 12, 2022, the public hearing. Any edits, additions, or corrections? If not, we'll take a motion to approve those as presented.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Kevin.
Second.
Second by Rick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed.
I abstain.
Jamie abstains. You should have received a copy of the minutes from July 12, 2022's regular meeting. Any edits, additions, or corrections? If not, we'll take a motion to approve those as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Rick, second by Vieta. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
Abstain.
Jamie abstains. First item under old business, we have Ordinance 2022-16, vacation of the alley. Good evening.
Good evening. In your last meeting, the vacation of the alley off of East Washington Street going north, the last alley to the east, was discussed. There were originally 2 petitioners for that vacation, and in your previous meeting, there was a discussion held as to the 2 petitioners entering into the memorandum of understanding so that they each could have access across the other's portion of the alley. Since your last meeting, we have received a letter from one of the petitioners, Peggy Bray, asking to withdraw from the petition. Neither of the petitioners are here this evening.
There was also part of that email saying that they had not reached an agreement as discussed at the last meeting. As
Yes.
one of the requests from the council, correct?
It's in the letter, actually.
Right.
They could not reach an agreement.
Any further questions for Ron? If not, would someone like to make a motion to deny this closure?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made to deny by Kevin, second by Vieta. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay, thank you. Just as a reminder, we're still working with, Amy and I've got a meeting with First Person in a couple weeks. If somebody's interested in serving on the insurance study committee, please let me know. Under new business, we'll first do Jenny. Good evening, Jenny, with the Small Business Development Corps. Good evening.
So, all right, I'm thinking that this probably didn't end up in the packet, so I'm gonna print it out. There you go. So, like usual, here I am again, this year to talk a little bit about small business and about the Indiana Small Business Development Center, and to formally ask that you continue to support us. So before I get started, I want to just say thank you very, very much for supporting us every year so far. You have been, Greensburg, the City of Greensburg has been a great supporter of Indiana Small Business Development Center, and I want to say thank you again this year. I think that last year we were very successful, and part of that is due to all of the support that the City of Greensburg gives. And so just to start back a little bit of an update for those of you who don't know me, and a lot of you do, but for anybody who wouldn't, my name is Jenny Fuller, and I work for the Indiana Small Business Development Center. I give no charge business advice to anybody who wants to start a business, expand a business, or commercialize a product. And I meet clients within the 6 counties that I support. I support Franklin, Dearborn, Ripley, Ohio, Switzerland, Decatur, and I meet clients in Lawrenceburg, Batesville, and Greensburg. And in Greensburg, I want to give a shout out to the Chamber, for they've always hosted me at the Chamber. That's where I meet clients. And up until the slowdown in this summer, I was meeting them there every week. So this year has been a really strong year. But we're going to review 2021 because I like to give an accounting every year for those people who are supporters, and that's what I just handed out, was that accounting of what we did in Decatur County, which is how the ISBDC looks at things by counties in Decatur County for 2021. As you're looking at that form, on the left side, I tried to give an overview, a view of new business starts in the state relative to the ISBDC, so what we've supported in the state. Now, I work within the 14 counties that are the southeast region, and I have 6 of those counties. And you can see the southeast region in 2021 had the 2nd most business starts in the entire state, and for the ISBDC. So we were a very strong region, and of those 52, I had 18 of them. And so I put that there because even though I think some people look to my part of the world, right, as being super rural, we still have a really strong showing on business starts, and it's a very fun and interesting job. Below that, though, you'll see the little star I want to call out. I had a new record in 2021. I actually hit over the $3 million threshold for me for capital infusion, which means how much money businesses are putting, those businesses that I helped are putting into their business in that year in order to get it started or to expand it or to do any of the things that they do, that I helped them do. Now, for Decatur County, that was $506,000, so $500,000 of those people that I helped put about $500,000 into their businesses in 2021. And so it was $500,000 towards that total overall $3 million. Also on the left side at the bottom, I did a new thing this year, and that is one of the things that I personally try to do is for all of my counties, I try to at least do one thing above and beyond that supports my communities. I actually live in Dearborn County, but I am a resident of Southeast Indiana, and I feel really strongly about supporting my community, and I believe that starts with small business. And so if I am asked to do things, I try very hard to put it in my schedule to do things. For Decatur County, you can see the things I did in 2021. I was involved in the Greensburg Women's Group, a presentation for funding opportunities that they were looking for. I was involved in the Ready Grant preparation meetings. I was involved in the Lilly Grant Scholarship Selection Committee, which I have been doing for a very long time, ever since I started here. And I also was involved in the Greensburg Women in Business Conference, which I have gone to every year that I've been involved in this job. Anyway, those are the things, and I do those kinds of things in all of my counties. So on the right side of this little review, we have exactly all of those numbers, what applied to Decatur County. 14 clients were served, so I saw 14 different clients from Decatur County. All of those did not start businesses, right? Because 2 of them started businesses, but not everybody was wanting to start a new business. Again, I help people who have existing businesses as well. I had 4 long-term clients. Long-term client is designated as someone that I met with for 5 hours or more of counseling time. And 4 jobs were created. A little over $500,000 in capital infusion was injected also into those businesses.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And at the bottom, you can see directly those businesses that were impacted either as business starts or impacted this year in the Greensburg community by the Indiana Small Business Development Center. Also, I have an annual report, which I can give you if you're interested. It's about the whole state, about the Indiana Small Business Development Center. What we do is a very unique thing. Every state has SBDCs, and they all do them very differently. It was created by the Small Business Administration. And the Small Business Administration appropriates funds for all the states, depending on some algorithm. I don't know exactly what it is. The state of Indiana matches those funds, and then they combine with an institution of higher learning, which for me is Purdue University. So Purdue University technically is my boss. They pay my paycheck and they administer my benefits, but I have oversight through the state and federal government for how I do my job. That said, also in that original agreement from the SBA was a part where the municipalities and the counties would help. They would help support. So it is, they also come along. That money then is also matched by the state of Indiana to help the region. Most of the money that gets spent in our region is spent on salaries and some transportation. So, as I'm driving around in those 6 counties, some of that money. But this is a very, very exciting job, and we're in an exciting time. This year, so in 2021, coming out of the shutdown, I had 18 new business started in Southeast Indiana in my 6 counties. 2 of them, right, were in Decatur County. Decatur County, I will admit, coming out of the shutdown was pretty slow. Things are starting to pick back up now. So we're happy about that. So far this year, I have 24 business starts, which is more than any I've ever had, and I have over $4 million of capital infusion just this year. You'll see that next year, hopefully. That said, I'm not done. The year isn't done, right? We're just a little over halfway through. I have at least 3 more to collect on, so it's going to be hopefully a good year. Summer is a little bit slower because kids are out of school and people are going on vacations. It's starting to pick back up. The first half of this year was incredibly busy. And those of you that I work with on a regular basis, Mayor especially, right, you know the kinds of things that I do. I work with the chamber, I work with economic development. We all try working on this same thing. So I hope that you're proud of the work that we're doing here. I hope that it is fulfilling the things that you want. Some of the testimonials, if you will, of people who have gone through ISBDC, some of the things that they say coming out of it are things like, I couldn't have done that without the ISBDC helping me. I didn't know anything when I walked in the door, and when I walked out, I opened my business. And that's pretty much how it is. People come in, they say, I don't know anything. I just have this idea that I want to do something, but I have no idea how to do it. And I walk them through their paces of how to get in business. And we all know that's not a really easy thing, right? How do you find your financing? How do you make your business plan? How do you find your location? How do you do all of those things? And it is a cooperative between people like me and people like you. So, any questions? I'm open for that. If you ever want to sit down and talk about it, if you have friends or family that need help by the Indiana SBDC, please let them know that I'm here. And you can give them my card, any of those kinds of things. And before I leave, I would be remiss if I didn't do the one thing I really came to do, which was to ask you to continue to support us in the future. In the past, you have supported us at the level of $5,000, and I would ask that you continue to do that again at that level.
Any further questions for Jenny? If not, I imagine we will continue to do that through our already budgeted funds, so thank you very much.
Okay.
And we actually had a meeting this morning that we sent somebody to you, so.
I already got them. I
Well,
have them on the schedule next
How about
week.
that? Thank you,
All right,
appreciate it.
Thank you very, very much.
Up next, Bryan Robbins with Resolution 2022-4, Heritage Hill Tax Abatement. Good evening, Bryan.
Good evening, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to actually come and present to you application for statement of benefits for tax abatement. I will step aside. We have the manships here who are in charge of Heritage Hill, the project, and I'll just invite them up. Evan, if you want to come up and plug it in, they have a short presentation for you to get a little bit about the project, and then I'll tell you what the Tax Abatement Committee suggested.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you, members of the council, for making the time. My name is Evan Manship. This is my beautiful wife, Emily. We are the developers proposing the redevelopment of the old St. Mary's Parish, which everyone seems to be familiar with. Apologies in advance. I'm going to try my best to keep this presentation more succinct than it was when we spoke with the Abatement Committee, but this has been almost 2 years in the making now to get to this point, and we're thrilled to kind of be on the doorstep of proceeding with this project. So thank you again for the consideration. Okay, as many of you are very aware, the old St. Mary's Parish has been vacant for quite some time. The church has been seeking a developer, or maybe a buyer, maybe the appropriate word, since 2016, maybe. Emily's a Greensburg native. She's been here since dirt was clean. Went to school at St. Mary's. Was obviously a part of I actually got the chance to be at a wedding where she sang at the church. So it was neat from an Indianapolis boy to see my wife exist within the Greensburg community, and especially this site that we now own. Really cool. We've since taken the idea of redeveloping this property into an event venue, not unique to weddings, but obviously would service that sector very well. And we've appropriately named it Heritage Hill, given Emily's family's background as a part of this site. So you can see, obviously, needs no introduction. This is a really cool shot that we had, but 130 years this thing's been around. In fact, it came to my attention the other day, this church was finished construction before the Eiffel Tower was. So it's been around forever. And we are looking forward to being the proud second owners of this property. The purpose, obviously this is super straightforward. We want to repurpose a really neat structure, a community staple here in Greensburg, and we want to breathe new, fresh life into this site. It's been moved out of, like I said, since 2016. It's been vacant. Been accumulating a lot of undesirable things to it, maybe some vandalism, some overgrowth, if you will, all the things that notoriously vacant buildings have acquired. So we are breathing new life into this property, and we're hoping we could attain your help to do so. For those of you that aren't ultra familiar with this property, like I wasn't before I met my missus, it consists of 4 different structures: a church, a school, education building, and a rectory property, where I suppose the priests used to live. And then it sits on roughly 2 acres of land. We plan to utilize the church as the formal event venue, and we plan to use the education building, which you can barely see in the bottom left corner, as essentially a prep and storage area. Everything else that you see there will be utilized, perhaps, the land itself will be used for parking, and the school itself won't be used at all. So if there's one thing to take away from this meeting, it's the fact that the school requires a lot of love, and we'll dig into that years and years later. But for the time being, there's going to be no use whatsoever for that church. I have a 33,000 square foot paperweight school. Here's our project. This is something we're extremely proud of, and we've structured it to be in phases. We're here to discuss today the phase 1 of that project, being the church and the education building, the redevelopment of those two things to serve as a formal event venue. You'll see in the second phase of the project, the proposed project, that Rectory House could potentially serve as a bed and breakfast of sorts or a short-term rental, depending on who asks. But that's where we're headed. We want to make this an event venue and some place where everyone can go and they can come and they can stay and not have to worry about going back and forth between the Hampton and our cool venue. We want to keep everyone on site, especially the brides and grooms, our mothers and fathers to be. That's what we want to be. One big site where everyone can just have the whole thing in one area. And you'll see something to note, like I just mentioned, that stage, or phase 3 rather, in the red, notably colored, is maybe kind of sort of at some point will we touch that school. For the time being, it's extremely costly, roughly $500,000 just to demolish the structure. We don't want to do that. It's architecturally appealing and frankly historically important to this community. So for the time being, we're holding off on doing anything to that structure. These are some cool renderings. Just kind of mention what we would like to do. There's some photos later on, or I'm happy to send them to you via email, whatever. But this is part of the redevelopment of the inside of the church that we're piecing together, including a grand staircase that kind of comes together here in the middle for brides and grooms to walk down, cool little picture area, that type of thing. But really adds to the possibility to not only have it awesome and neat for weddings, but it bodes well to other things as well, concerts, corporate events, that type of thing. And this is the focal point of the interior of the main building, if you will. This is the seating capacity to date for this is set up for a wedding, but again, this is could go a million different ways. Not to take back home, but just to give an idea of what this might look like for potential venue setup. Something that's important here, and this is something I love talking about, is this is going to be an expensive project. And I think everyone knows that, including the church. It's why they had such a hard time selling it for 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it was. We're putting our life savings into this. We have a tremendous amount of capital set aside that we're willing and able to make happen on this project, but we need to find some level of incentive to make this worthwhile for the level of capital it needs to take to get this thing to a profitable juncture. So this is what we're looking at. Again, these numbers change daily, but this is the most firm as they were as of yesterday morning. So our infrastructure costs, we have to redo a handful of different sewer things. Soft costs speak for themselves, and then obviously our hard costs are sticks and bricks. For redeveloping a property that's 130, 140 years old, gets expensive daily. This was just a little slide I put here about my wife and I. I think it's important to note that, and my other pride and joy, that's our little girl, Elizabeth, who I don't recognize in that picture for how old she is now. But Emily's a St. Mary's, classes 90, 99, 98. In fact, when we bought the school and the church, there was still a picture hanging up of St. Mary's class of 1998, and little 7-year-old Emily is right there front and center in the picture. It's really cool. It's hanging up in the rectory house where we just came from.
I'll give the camera causing trouble.
Right. But not only Emily, but Emily's father's father's father was a part of this parish. So it goes back eons within her family, and frankly, it's become a passion project of mine. What a neat thing to go back and look at and say, I did that. Our lineage kind of accomplished something really new and really cool. So this is my shameless plug for our family and kind of how important this whole thing is to us. Something that we've been asked a handful of different times is, I think it's kind of caught wind when the church sold, who bought it, and kind of what the next steps might be. And again, while we're not full throttle ahead on this project just yet, we have a handful of folks that are extremely excited to kind of join forces with us. So this is just, again, an average thought here for who else might benefit from this project existing. We have a handful of vendors that Emily's been working tirelessly with to keep them on board and make sure that they're going to be around if and when this project goes full bore. But this is just some real quick math on roughly what level of reinvestment into the community can be expected for if and when this wedding event exclusively venue comes to fruition. And there's just some of the folks that we've been working with and talking with today. Something that I mentioned with the abatement committee in a separate meeting here, the city was kind enough, actually Bryan was kind enough to pass this along back when we first started sniffing around at the idea of making this happen. Event space in the way that we want to provide it in this city, it does not exist. And upon communicating with Bryan, he made it very clear that obviously the city understood that to a certain level, and it actually had a study done back in 2015, 2016, to essentially speak to if something were to be built, what would it look like, what would need to happen, how big would it need to be, all the fun stuff, and these 70 some odd pages, so it's got plenty of information there. I'll send it to you if you want to go to sleep tonight real well. But a piece that I wanted to paint, or a picture I wanted to paint here is Emily and I had that supposition where, you know, something had to change. There was not the space, obviously, but there was a reason no one was doing it. What was the story? And this is a direct snippet from that exact study. And if you read the last sentence that's underlined here, private investment may be needed to attract private sector dollars. Public participation can come from various forms of subsidies up through and including direct ownership. So our hypothesis that there should be, and potentially wasn't up to this point, public investment into a private enterprise is the reason this doesn't exist. The numbers wouldn't make sense. And that's why we're standing in front of you today. So I don't know Bruce Dobner at all, but I tend to agree with his sentiment that an abatement would be a necessary outcome for something what we're trying to achieve. And this is my ask. I think, you know, there's a triple-headed monster that exists with this property. We have a dilapidated tax-exempt property that will be put back on the tax roll, and something that the community needs per the study that they paid for back in 2015. So if we can put something back on the tax roll, redevelop a vacant or 4 vacant dilapidated properties, and subsequently give the community something that everyone can agree it needs to a certain degree, I think this is a tremendous way to do it, and I kindly ask for your support in doing so.
Okay.
That's all that I have.
Yeah, thanks Evan and Emily. This is something that I know you've been meeting with us and talking about for well over a year, so I'm very glad to see it here this evening. And
Likewise.
I told Emily and Evan, I said, you better have your website done, because once it goes out, that's right. So everyone should go check it out. They've spent a lot of time going through the processes. They've been working with Sarah and Bryan and really trying to make this successful. So thanks for being here and thanks for the presentation. Council, questions for the manships? No? Wow, well done.
Thank you.
Bryan, so we did have a tax abatement committee meeting. The manships asked for 5 years. We went through that process. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the tax committee did meet, discussed it.
Weighed against the tax guidelines, tax abatement guidelines that were adopted by the city, and did score well within the 5-year term. We're excited about, again, getting this property back on the tax rolls and function, and bringing more people to the heart of the community. That's one thing that he mentioned. Bringing these folks that will be attending functions into the heart of the community versus out by the outskirts. So the recommendation by the Tax Abatement Committee is for 5 years.
And that is what it scored as well.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Correct.
So we had a trifecta. That's what the manships asked for. That's what it scored. That's the recommendation. So, any questions for Bryan? If not, I would gladly entertain a motion to provide a 5-year abatement for Heritage Hill Gen 5 LLC for the Old St. Mary's property.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Daryl. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jamie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Congratulations, thank you, and good luck. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you, thank you.
We need to note that was resolution
I was just gonna ask
2022-4.
that question, Jamie,
So,
thank you.
Sure.
I mean, that,
Yeah, what
the
was the
official
number?
motion, I guess, was resolution 2022-4.
Street Commissioner Klosterkemmper, update about next week.
Good evening.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
Could I ask what the website domain, the address is for their website?
Oh, what our website is? It's heritagehillevents.com,
Thank you.
and I can hand you a card here at the end. Those are official now too.
Sorry, Mark.
He's got to get something scheduled over there.
He's got a party to throw.
That's right. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Next week, we are going to go ahead and have our second heavy trash for the year. We had some discussion about not doing it this year as we went through some revisions. After the spring event, the mayor and myself, we sat down with the entire staff. We spent a lunch hour. We let them make suggestions. We've investigated some other communities for what they're doing. I'll bring you that information once it's all compiled after this event. I think you got a copy of the door hanger included. We're going to stop the construction and demolition debris is one big change. The second big change is the loose stuff that you've seen strung up and down the streets that we spend hours and hours picking up is going to be required to be bagged. So next week we're going to go ahead and have a second heavy trash. We're hoping that because it's the one in August, it's usually lighter, so we'll have a better idea of what the impacts are with the rule changes we're making, and then we'll look for what we want to do come the spring at that time. Any questions?
What is our plan for those who haven't heard, for some reason or another, the changes, and you get piles of debris, loose trash? What's going to happen there?
We talked about communication. One thing that was brought up at the Board of Works meeting, we're going to look into the possibility of robocalling, which I guess is a capability through the utility office, and let everybody know exactly what the rule changes are. I'm going to suggest we also let them know what the consequences are. Our ordinance is very clear that if you put out unacceptable trash and you leave it beyond 1 week or 2, I have to verify that, I don't know. We will pick it up and you will pay a minimum charge of a couple $100 as a discouragement.
And I would say,
Is that included on the hanger? Is that information included on the door hanger?
If I could speak up for just a moment.
Come on up then.
Sorry.
Because it would shift over to Sarah's department after the fact. It would become a code enforcement issue.
We already
That's okay.
We already deal with that with code enforcement. So if we get calls when we are out driving around several times a week, hitting different areas of the town, if we notice that, we take pictures, come back, compose a letter. They have 10 days to get it cleaned up, or we will send the street department over to clean it up with a minimum charge of $200. And then they will be invoiced for that. And then if they don't pay the invoice in 30 days, a lien goes on the property taxes.
Have we already printed those? Because we may be able to, we could.
I'll have to look and see if I haven't gone back to the printer to pick them up, but they should be available before the end of the week. If there's any room left, we might be able to squeeze something on there.
Yeah, we can look at that too.
All I was saying was what Sarah said. So there's a procedure in place that's already been established, well established by ordinance as to how to take care of people that don't
Want to comply.
Any other questions for Mark on that, or? Okay.
See how it works, and then we'll go from there.
It's all available on the city's social media pages. I would encourage you all to share that out to your followers as well. Okay, thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
It's time again for the appointment to the Decatur County Lilly Endowment SA Committee, and the council has an appointment to that. Would anyone like to serve in that capacity?
Who's on it?
Aye.
You are?
Everybody's just staring at me.
No,
So
again.
There
You need a
were,
volunteer.
Fine job.
I did volunteer last year.
but there were
Doing fine.
requirements though based on like age of your children or something where you can't participate, right, if you have.
I think that's to serve on the board for the foundation, but the essays are reviewed 100% blind. So I don't think that applies.
I was thinking if you had one available, you
Could not?
Could not
Okay.
say. Because I've done it in the past.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think there's still a requirement
Still.
even for the essay blind portion, because Chad served on that and had to look at it for the age of his children. That means you fit the bill perfectly.
No conflicts.
How do you feel about that?
What? Serving or?
Yeah, continuing to
That's-
represent the.
I can represent the council.
There you go. There you go.
Or is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Okay.
Made by me.
There we go. Everybody who's in favor of volunteering me for something else, state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, me. No, happy to serve on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Two other things real quick. Invitation to the water plant open house. That is Saturday, August 20th. I mentioned this last month. We would encourage you to come out 11 to noon, see the facility, take a tour, look at it. It's open to the public. Anyone is welcome to attend. Rick and his crews will be giving some tours and showing off the place. Obviously, it opened in the middle of COVID, so we haven't been able to do that yet, so we're excited to be hosting that. 2 days before that, on Thursday, is National Night Out, August 18th. Chief Sturmer, Chief McNeely have both been working overtime to fill the park with items. We have a lot of vendors and tents and apparatus and all kinds of stuff coming. It's a very much larger county-wide kind of effort. Statewide, I think state police are coming. So it should be a really, really great opportunity. We will have a dinner that the fire department's going to make, and free, obviously. And then we're also going to have Nut and Fancy Band is going to join us for a few hours to play, and it should be a really, really good time. It will be in North Park because North Park will be done. If you haven't been out there yet, it is very close to being done. And it looks really great. And we've already seen a lot of use of the facility, and a lot of people have been chatting about it. So if you haven't been out yet, I encourage you to. Thursday, August 18th is National Night Out there. Next week, on Monday, our drive-up window on the east end of the building will close for 2 weeks as our parking lot project continues around. And then it will, This Thursday, it will close as our project continues on around. Anything else before we do updates? Okay, Jamie, Board Works.
The interns for the mayor's office came in and requested that we accept bids for a project over at North Park, basically where it used to be the old tennis court. We approved to accept those bids. Actually, they did a fine job with the presentation.
Exceptionally.
Might be a little bias in this group here, but a little bias. All right. Fire chief came. Actually, we approved the purchase of an HVAC unit for the AC that went out actually in the office area. We approved an executive session to do some interviews for firefighter candidates. We have 2 open positions at this point in time. And then we approved the bid for a SUV for the fire department as well. Zeke Smith came in and we approved the purchase based on an emergency basis for the UV disinfection equipment. Basically, that does not include the work to put it in. That was just purchasing the unit based on the lead time of the unit and the fact that the situation we're in. Mark came up and talked about heavy trash as well. And then we accepted a bid for the replacement of a flatbed truck, basically from Fleetwood Chevrolet for $40,963. Ron came up and actually brought some stormwater petitions. We approved a 30% credit off the St. Mary's Church property, or Heritage Hills property, I guess.
That was the real St. Mary's.
The real St. Okay, no, I'm sorry.
No double dipping tonight.
No double dipping there. All right, sorry. Maybe I had that wrong. The St. Mary's Church property based on the fact of impervious surface, and then the fact that the runoff doesn't go, it goes basically directly to a waterway. So there was a 20% and 10%. There was a petition for 201 South Montfort Street, which we denied, and then another petition for 410 West Mill Street, or 410, West Mill Street, which we did approve. That's really it.
Thank you, Jamie. Any questions on those? Rick, anything from Main Street?
I didn't make the last meeting, so.
We are currently in the process of hiring a new director and admin coordinator, so those roles will hopefully be filled relatively soon, and preparing for the items this fall. Kevin, Plan Commission.
nothing to meet on this month.
That is true. EDC meetings next week, this week. Anything, Brian, that, come on up if you want.
We just had the annual meeting here
yeah.
hosted at the city.
And I'm very happy that everybody remembered it, because I spoke at it, so I figured, we had excellent attendance. I really appreciate the use of the city hall, the facilities, and everything worked quite well. We had Mr. Bryan Evans from Invents come in and talk about the opportunities to hire locally veterans for both in the manufacturing, the IT world and stuff. They're determined to set up vets who are getting off duty to attract them to Indiana, and that actually has created some fruitful conversations with local employers. So we look forward to that, bridge that effort.
Really an interesting program, as you mentioned, where they go to bases as people are being discharged out of the military and recruit them to Indiana, because they're looking where do they go next, and set them up with employers, and it was fascinating conversation.
1/3 stays in the area where the base is located, and another third goes back home to where they originally come from, but then the other third is up for grabs. And these are being vets. These are very disciplined, very highly skilled individuals, and Indiana is definitely making a play for them, and we want to do the same. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. Vieta Solid Waste?
I talked to Chris, and he's got we had the proposal to request for bids to pick up curbside recycling. Mandy just wanted to make sure that Greensburg was actually mentioned in the bid proposal. She felt like it was important because that's who they're providing the service for, but she wanted to make sure that the wording in it did not have any legal binding for the city in any way. And Chris is going to look over that.
Yep.
We talked about the Talks Away Day coming up. The big one is September 10th. They're going to do the electronic one. I actually went on and did a live on Facebook. I think I hit about 900 some views. So just talked about how the electronic one is happening the weekend, the Saturday before the heavy trash. So encouraged whoever was watching, or just to take those electronics out to the park and not put them on the curb, because they're not going to pick them up anyway. They're going to hang a thing on your door and take it
Saturday.
Take it back in. Yes. Yeah, Saturday is electronics. And then they'll do another electronic and paper shredding in November.
Okay. Carol, RDC.
We met, did not have a quorum, no business conducted.
That's right. Main Street, EDC, we already covered. Chamber of Commerce, they continue to do a lot of really good programs. They had a lunch and learn today that was very well attended. We'd encourage you to follow along or get on their email list as well. Animal Control has submitted their budget for next year to us. I'm working on, for 911, I'm working to establish more open lines of communications with Erica Free at the dispatch center to be sure that we're all on the same page. EMA, we had a meeting last week, or a couple weeks ago. There was some discussion about the radios and prep work for, what was it, Nate, a hazmat for EMA?
Yeah, hazmat training.
Training, yes. Water board's been clicking right along, nothing big happening over there, right, Rick? I mean, everything seems to be moving in the right direction. And the airport board met last week, and they're finishing up some dirt work project out there. Anything else?
I apologize for being late. 14 years of starting at 7 o'clock caught up with me.
Ron gave some time to people at 5 p.m. today as well, so must have been something in the air. That's okay. If not, take a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made by Daryl. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed.
They were actually early.
Yeah.